Hi guys, my name is Julz, and today I would like to share with you my story of healing from psychotropic medication. Even though it's not just yet a success story, it truly is about healing. And I wanted to connect with you, with a community where whether you're on medication, you're tapering, you've been off for 2 weeks, you've been off for 5 years, no matter where you are on this journey, or if maybe you know somebody who's affected, or you don't, well, welcome, thanks for being here. Before I go into things, I do apologize because my voice is very croaky today. I decided today was the day to make this video, and I wake up with a sore throat. But never mind, we'll get through this. So a tiny bit about the background, my background story. It starts the story that I'm going to share with you. It starts in 2004. At the time, I was 21, going through normal life things. I was a perfectionist at the time, getting my education to become an engineer because that's what I had to be. I mean, that was very important in my family. Anyways, I had all those constraints. My belief system was totally not adapted to my values, to who I was. And but so anyway, that earned me to start getting depressed. um, and To depression was coupled anorexia, which was just another way of coping with life struggles and just not being okay. Um, but obviously, all of that is very scary when you're 21 years old and you think, okay, my studies are my everything. I need to be okay again so that I can go on studying. And so first of all, I went to see my GP, and he was like, yeah, well, so he tried me on Prozac, a tiny bit of Prozac, and I wasn't getting any better. And so my GP said, well, I don't know how to help you. And then I went to see another doctor. I don't know. So, but I was getting more and more like scared about anorexia. I thought I was controlling something in my life, but then actually realizing that anorexia was controlling me, and that I had become totally unable to feed myself. And seeing that my parents were both, for the very first time in my life, my parents who'd always been, who always had a solution or always had an answer to things, and very adamant about things. Well, they were scared as anything, and I turned to them and they were like, we don't know, ask your mom, ask your dad. Well, they didn't know, obviously. And so in 2001, I got the privilege um, of having an appointment with a field-renowned psychiatrist here in Paris. This is where I live. I'm from Paris. A field-renowned psychiatrist in eating disorders. And so I was like, oh my goodness, yes, this is what I need. He's going to help me, and I'm going to figure this out, and I'll be okay again. So I went to see him, and indeed he said to me, well, for me, when there are new anorexics in my intake of client intake, within 3 months they're back into their lives, they're fine. And I was like, oh yes, please, I'll do whatever. I want to get better. So, well, long story short, you probably guess what's happening. I apologies. I was very soon on a lot of medication. So the cocktail was soon to be Klonopin, diazepam, Effexor, and Lexapro. The whole, I mean, all of them. And so I took them as prescribed, always as prescribed. And I wasn't getting any better. If anything, I was really getting worse and worse and worse and worse, and started being unable to function, never was able to get back to my studies, was just getting more and more not myself. So fast forward, 6 years happened. I don't even know what happened. Nothing, not much. I tried again. I tried and tried things, and I was always something's wrong with me. I'm just getting worse. My mental state, my mental, my mental state and my mental illness. So I totally bought into that paradigm that I was sick, that I was taking medication because I had an illness, and thinking, well, see, you can't even function with medication. So just imagine if you were not taking medication. I didn't even think of that, because why? I mean, I was mentally sick. So anyways, life opportunities. I did go back to my studies. I ended up moving to England, and starting to rebuild my life, and well, 2014, so 10 years after the beginning of the drugs, I started having very weird symptoms, like a symptom which was like narcolepsy, really. And 3 o'clock, 3 p.m., I would just literally fall asleep / lose consciousness. I don't know what was happening. And that would happen when I was at the wheel trying to drive. Very, very scary. And yet again, I was asking myself, what is wrong with me? What next? I mean, what now with all the struggles? And so I went to my GP, who was obviously a different doctor from the psychiatrist I had been seeing for so long in Paris. And I tried to explain that symptom, and he said, well, what actually amazes me is not what's happening now, but the fact that you can actually get out of bed in the morning, seeing everything that you take. So I was taking, morning, noon, beginning of the evening, and bedtime. I had pills to take. That was my normal. That was me. So that was actually the first time I questioned the pills, and I thought, oh, but yeah, there was like a light bulb thing, like, okay. So I turned to that doctor and said, well, yeah, well, in that case, I want help to take a bit less of that medication, or help me to maybe not get off. Was not my initial thought, because I was in that paradigm of mentally ill. But so actually, what my what I was asking, well, he turned to me and he said, well, I can't do that, because you've been on so much for such a long time. I can't, you can't. Basically, this is, so you just need to come to terms with the fact that this is you, this is how you'll be for the rest of your life, basically. And I had that reaction of, wait a minute. My parents, they created a human being which is supposed to be unique, and I want to connect to that human being. I want to be this person. How can you just anyways. So yeah, apologies, because if I go into too many details, this is going to last for so long. So anyways, so I realized that I needed to do something about the medication. So because I wasn't going to get any support from the medical community, and I tried with other doctors. I tried to seek help. But it didn't. Just didn't happen. So I went to the on the internet, and I found a peer-to-peer support forum where I found the information, I found the support, and I realized that I was going. I I had it in me. I didn't. I. It sounds very grand ego thing, but I knew what I wanted. I had, that was my motivation. I wanted to, I realized that that my this medication was making me not myself. So this was really a gradual realization, and yeah. So that's where I was at in 2014. So yeah, I took down as many barriers as I could that would be between me and getting better. So all the doctors who didn't want to help me, any doubt, also self-doubt, I couldn't go there. I needed to make it, you know. So yeah, I guess that was a mindset, like default mindset, which I just was. So I started tapering, and at the very beginning, my goal, as I said, wasn't to get off really at first, but to take less of the medication, to be less tired, basically. And gradually, as the taper went, I started tapering off Klonopin because I thought this was the worst. I don't know if it was the worst or perhaps, but so I started tapering, and it went on and on and on for a long time. And because I was on so much medication, it should have gone on for a very, very, very long time. But I didn't have it in me. So at the beginning, I did things rather slowly, rather with responsibility, I guess. But at the end of it, I couldn't see myself tapering for another year, 2 years, 3 years. It had already been 3 years. And so listen to what I'm saying, don't do what I do, listen to what I'm saying. I mean, I went off way too quickly, because I thought that the medication, once off, I would start reconnecting to myself, and this was what really I wanted, to reconnect to my soul, to my passions, to my drive, to being me, and me, which I'd been so disconnected from for, by that time, that was 13 years. So I got off in May 2017, and very weird things happened, because the world started to feel very alien to me in very different ways, and I knew it was, something was very, very, very off. I couldn't put my fingers on what was off, and actually it wasn't just overnight, like the gates of hell just open. It just was gradual. I was going to get worse and worse and worse and worse, and just having that kind of echo of the world is so horrible and alien. But I don't know what is happening. I don't know what it is. I can't tell you what this, or what the symptoms are, but I knew I wasn't okay. However, on the other side, one of my first reactions, that was about a month after being off, was to phone my mom here in Paris, when I was in England, and saying, well, I'm here in England all alone. I have no friends. I'm not doing anything with my life apart from getting off medication, because that had been my mission. I had dedicated my life to that for 3 years. And so that in June 2017, I was phoning my mom up and saying, well, can I come home? I don't know where I'm going. I don't know where I'm going with my life, but I just know that my place is not here. I want to be home. And so I booked a one-way ticket, and made my way back to Paris. So yeah, that was the beginning of my post-withdrawal chapter. And well, let's say my worst symptom in post-withdrawal was, without the shadow of a doubt, monophobia. Monophobia, and again, what was it exactly? Perhaps also a blend of mental akathisia and a sense of void plus this monophobia. I think it's not as simple as one symptom, but it's 1 plus 1 equals a synergy of 5. One symptom, you add another symptom, it makes it's compounded symptoms, meaning that you're suffering so much more and having so much less ability to cope with one symptom or cope with the other symptom. How are you going to cope with both symptoms at the same time? That takes you to symptom to the power of 5 or 2 or whatever. But so yeah, anyways, you get the gist of it. So monophobia, and again, I couldn't understand what was happening to me because it wasn't clear. It wasn't, I just knew that when I was alone, I was absolutely not okay, but I wasn't freaking out from being alone, which was very weird. But when I was alone, I was in a state of mental torment, of this like mental akathisia totally took over me, and I was in a horror movie. I was in the worst horror movie of my life. I mean, the so monophobia took put me in such a vulnerable, scared position, and it wasn't constant throughout the day. It would gradually build up. So monophobia for me would be 5 p.m., 6 p.m. to basically managing to get to sleep, which was 2 a.m. maybe, but at that time. So well, how did I cope? Basically, I'm not going to go into too many details. Perhaps I can make another video at some point about some specific symptoms which I had to cope with, and because I know that I was looking for information about some symptoms that not many people have, or so maybe I can share more insights into that. But so my first instinct obviously was to latch onto people around me. So that meant my mom, that meant my brother, and well, fast forward, it wasn't possible anymore to latch onto these people for reasons I won't come into. Well, I will, yeah, but so it's like the universe like gives you a kick in the butt, and tells you to find another way. And actually this coping via latching onto people, it makes you so dependent and so much more vulnerable and so much more freaking out, because you know that if that person disappears on you, your survival is at risk, basically. So when the universe gives me a tiny kick in the butt, well, more than a tiny kick in the butt, really, because this was actually like utterly, yeah. hell. So I actually went on the internet once again and signed up for every volunteering opportunity. I went on to Meetup also and signed up for all workshops and classes and group discussions about everything you can imagine, as long as it happened during that window, or not window, during that daily wave of monophobia and akathisia and just mental torture. So and I didn't have a choice. It wasn't okay, I'd like to do this, okay, why not do this? I had no choice. In order to survive this wave of in the day, I had to sign up for this or that class, even though I was not interested. I also had severe anhedonia, and so not interested, not, I didn't feel drive or desire to do this or that, but it didn't matter because that monophobia thing was so much more powerful. I had absolutely no other, well, I didn't see any other choice that I had. So I had to engage in all of those things. And so actually, monophobia took me to doing dancing, creative writing, yoga, volunteering with the elderly, volunteering with the sick, volunteering with children. Well, I did so many things, and for somebody who'd spent 13 years of their life on drugs, being disconnected, not being in the world, well, actually having to cope through monophobia was a way of the world inviting me to the world again. Obviously, you don't see it that way when you're going through it and when you're suffering terribly like this. But with hindsight, I see that I was also starting to make friends again. Because on the other side, well, on the one side, I was suffering immensely, but on the other side, healing was actually happening, and I was starting to reconnect with myself, even though I could not absolutely not feel it, and I was actually connecting with and to people. Again, hindsight. But so the weird and wonderful was happening already. And I remember I was chatting with one of my buddies back then, and I was telling him, well, now I have a kind of coping structure. I had those workshops, those volunteering opportunities in place in my life, so I knew I could be, yeah, okay-ish. I mean, I had gone from surviving to coping, so I wasn't as dependent, vulnerable, and I I was definitely not thriving, but I was coping. Um, but of course, the world or the universe has a way of kicking you in the butt every now and again, and by then, so I have some notes here, so. So bear with me. Sorry. By then, 2020 happened and COVID happened, and so you're like, oh, now what? My coping structure was just it was totally ruined because everything that I put in place was not happening anymore. It wasn't possible. So what I want to say is that you always find a way, and this is quite incredible. This really is my takeaway. Um, yeah, I will go into more of that maybe in a later video if that interests you. But let me move on for the sake of everyone's sanity here. um so yeah, in 2021, I was 4 years off and still having to cope a lot. And one day I took my bike out for a leisurely run, as you do. Well, run, bike ride, a leisurely ride. Sorry, apologies. And well, that day I wasn't so lucky. I was hit by a car and run over by a truck, tanker truck. The truck actually started driving over my hip, and I didn't know it at the time, but it was breaking my pelvis into four pieces. So that wasn't such a great day. Knowing that I was still, suffering from post-withdrawal, still suffering a great deal. But why am I telling you this? Is that my brain went to yet another survival mode, which I didn't know I had in me. It was very weird, but it kind of opened up lots of other roads towards gratitude, and to realizing, it could have been so much worse. I could have lost my legs, I could have lost my life, i could have I could have lost my pelvic region and still being alive, and that would have been absolutely oh well. Anyways, um, so that did something to me psychologically, and I realized that my healing from medication was, ongoing, and it was a journey, and that I was going to be okay, and I had my life. I had good circumstances, even though I was going through hell. And so at that time I also thought, well, let's try and find a psychologist, like a therapist, because for so long I just thought, well, nobody is going to want to help me. Everybody's going to laugh at me because she's a crazy lady who's going off her meds, basically. And so, but I was so very happy to be proven wrong by this very first therapist that I met. She totally connected with me, and she was absolutely humble, in the sense that she said to me, well, I don't know about medication. I truly don't know if you're going to get better from, in healing, because I've no experience of that. I don't know anybody who's going through that. I don't know about that field. I don't know about this medication. So, but this is what I can help you with. This is what I cannot help you with. But this is what I can indeed help you with. Um, and so you actually realize that healing from the medication is one thing, but there's also so much healing in other parts of your life, uh, that you can actually do. And I had never gone back to address the roots of the initial cause, the reasons for being medicated in the first place. I had also so many limiting beliefs that I was not aware of. Also, the family structure, and what is passed on by your education, and by society, and being disconnected from your own values. So I mean, yes, there was anhedonia. Yes, there was the I had many symptoms brought on because of the medication and because of withdrawal itself. But that was a part that was going to take care of itself, as long as as I was coping, and I was, every day is a day that you are more healed than you were the previous day. So that in a way takes care of itself as long as you find a way to survive and cope. At least that's my viewpoint. So that was actually the beginning of empowerment, because I started working with that psychologist and I started to heal myself from limiting beliefs, from relationships which were not fulfilling, from so many things. And so today in 2022, I'm a bit over 5 years off. I'm still not symptom free. I still struggle a bit with I I have still anhedonia. My emotions, a lot of them are still not back online, although it's not as clear, as I said. It's not just a symptom. It's so complex, and it's very hard to say what is there and what you don't have. And some changes happen so subtly and so in tiny, such tiny increments, that it's so hard to see, really. I still have a degree of akathisia, as in mostly the mental component of it. I still struggle a lot with focusing. I can't watch TV, just sit and watch TV. I have to be eating. For example, yeah, I watch TV or Netflix while eating, and when my plate is empty, I I take it to the sink. I wash up. I brush my teeth. I go. I just can't be chilling, basically. Although it's a bit less torturous than it used to be. So please don't lose faith. If you're listening to this and thinking, oh, but no, I can't go through this for another 5 years, and well, this is my story. This is not yours. So please don't project your healing. Um, and yeah, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. You will find a way, and because just as I have. uh so again, sorry, back to where am I right now. Some of the symptoms also is I don't feel satiety. I feel hunger because I get lightheaded, basically, but I don't really have an appetite. I'm still disconnected in that way, although it's gotten a tiny bit better, I think. Um, but I'm talking about symptoms there, but I've what I want to tell you is how much I've grown, because in that past year I've grown in ways I couldn't foresee. So I think there is healing from the medication, and very subtle healing that you can't quite put your finger on. And there's also that work that you can do in parallel. And so today I feel so much more empowered. I feel so much more confident. I even feel serene. Even though I'm struggling on a daily basis with some symptoms, I'm at peace with all of that. I'm owning my story. I've never been as fulfilled in my friendships in my whole life. I don't think. um I have no regrets. I don't regret what happened to me. I just know that I didn't know any better. I don't even resent doctors for what I've been through, for what they did to me. I've never felt like a victim. I never wanted to go there because I didn't feel it was going to be helpful in any way. And I'm so very glad to not feel like a victim, even though objectively I probably am. But the way I'm feeling, there's I'm anchoring back. I'm anchoring myself back, to my roots, to who I am. When I say my roots, I mean myself, my being. Even if I feel still disconnected, there is reconnection. Undeniably, there is reconnection, and this is healing, in the sense of healing from medication, but also healing yourself. Um, so I mean, there's I'm also finding a narrative, I'm finding coherence, I'm finding my story, and I'm actually starting to discover who I am. So, which was my mission when I got on this, when I decided to start this journey. It was, well, I want to discover who I am. And so today, 5 years later, when I think back to, let's say, a year or a year and a half ago, it was all about coping. So I'd gone from surviving to coping to indeed start to becoming. But now I'm actually starting to build something, and I actually discovered that my life mission is to help people. When my education had been in engineering and was so far from all the values, those core values that I had, I didn't know I had them because I didn't have that awareness back then, or maybe I had it, but I was in severe denial of that. And so today I'm free of constraints, of those limiting beliefs and all. And I'm actually, for the first time, also connecting to true ambition. And I can't believe I'm saying this, but I'm launching my coaching business. I mean, just even tell if somebody had told me that a year ago or even 6 months ago, I would have told them, well, no, you must be talking about somebody else. It can't be. Well, I'm telling you, it is. And yeah, so yeah, I can't feel intense joy yet. I can't feel, but in a way I'm feeling happy. So this really is the takeaway I wanted you to have, to be able to have anyways, is that it gets better in very weird ways, but very weird and wonderful ways. And so you just need to believe in yourself. You need to get through this, and the best is yet to come. So again, thanks guys for listening to this. It's a very long video. I hope it helps in any ways. Please subscribe, like. You can also connect with me on Facebook. You can email me. Please comment. Tell me if there's something else you'd like me to discuss. Tell me about you, because this video, as I said, is about connecting also. So yeah, take this opportunity, and anyways, whatever, I just want to send you some very warm healing hugs, best wishes, take good care of yourself, um and hopefully see you soon. Thanks again. Bye.